Helldivers 2. It's been kind of a big hit lately, but most interestingly for me, it hasn't gone away. Unlike many games that have seen this initial massive surge in popularity and then fall into obscurity, this one keeps on going. Why? What makes Helldivers 2 work and keep working? Well, I've been putting together this design map of the game to explain just that. And today, I'd love to walk you through it to, explain how it all works and how it keeps working. Let's get at it. Whenever I'm trying to figure out how a game works, I always start with the core loop. The core loop is a dominant set of activities that the player engages in while playing a game. The core loop for Helldivers is actually pretty simple. Players select their mission, they explore, fight, and extract. They then earn rewards, and they use those rewards to upgrade their gear. In many ways, this is really similar to how many other games out there work. So what makes the Helldivers version of this loop so good? Well, for that, we need to get into the details. Let's start with the part you're probably the most familiar with, the in-mission gameplay, or the moment-to-moment gameplay. The overall structure of every mission starts with a primary objective and ends once the players extract. There are also optional secondary objectives, samples to collect, and factories or nests to destroy, which increase the total reward for the player. An obstacle to achieving those goals is exploration and combat. Exploration is made interesting due to the procedural nature of the maps, and players are given tools to overcome that, such as pings and, of course, the minimap. Combat is where the real fun is, of course, and players are given a load of tools to support that. Some notable elements are how enemies continually spawn through the map, friendly fire, limited resources for health management and ammunition, and what I like to refer to as their chaos engine, which brings all this together in crazy dynamic way, which results in, well, fun. Constraining all of this is the timer, which ensures players always are under some form of pressure and can't simply wander the map completing all of the objectives in their own time. Once extracted, players are then given rewards. These scale with the player's success in the mission, along with the difficulty. These rewards act as the extrinsic motivation for players. They are what they're trying to earn and collect as they play. They're the reason they keep coming back. The rewards in Helldivers take the form of character experience, samples, requisition slips, medals, and super credits, which is their real money currency. Of course, the rewards on their own would be meaningless if it wasn't for a way to do something with them, which brings us to the progression. Like all progression systems, the goal here is to give players a long-term rewards for engaging in the content, a way to encourage players to keep coming back. Helldivers has 3 dominant forms of progression in the form of the Destroyer, Warbonds, and the Superstore. Not only does the Destroyer act as a physical representation of the player's upgrades and a lobby for queuing up with your teammates, it also provides one of the densest progression trees, with stratagem unlocks allowing you to call in more powerful abilities, and the ship modules, all of which increase the power of those stratagems. Think of this like the core ability or talent tree for your character from your favorite MMO. The Warbonds are what other games would more commonly see as a battle pass, with a variety of weapons, armor, and cosmetics being available to the player, which can be unlocked with medals earned by playing the game. By splitting the Warbonds into standard and premium, which requires super credits to unlock, Helldivers gives players a multitude of choices for unlocks and ways to spend their medals even if they don't purchase the premium assets. And of course, there's the Superstore, which offers a rotating supply of premium currency items. By having the Superstore, which rotates on a faster cadence, and the Warbonds, which unlock less often, it provides more options for players to spend their premium currency. This may seem like a lot of premium currency monetization options, but by diluting it across multiple progression trees, providing players with a way to collect super credits without paying for them, and ensuring that players have a deep and rich free unlock path for non-purchased items, the monetization part feels less obtrusive. It helps, of course, that the game is just damn fun. All of these progression paths end up being pulled in and represented on the player's character, which is dominantly modified before the player enters a mission. This loadout selection screen provides players with a way to customize their character for the current mission, which may well be different to the last. They get to select what stratagems they'll deploy with, and collaborate with their teammates on those choices. Of course, this is all heavily impacted by the mission that they've chosen, which is way more than just picking a mission from a list. And here's where we get to the really awesome part of Helldivers 2. Rather than simply having a list of missions to select from, Helldivers 2 creates and connects a large galaxy map that it's alive. The galaxy map is broken up into these different buckets, each of which represents a sort of physical construct that we can relate to, and each one serves a different purpose. These buckets are sectors, planets, and then missions, and each of these is grouped within the other. Importantly, these buckets are all dynamic and evolve over time based on the actions of the players. We'll get into that shortly. Sectors break up parts of the galaxy into smaller areas, with each sector containing a number of planets. Sectors are also controlled by an enemy faction or the player's factions. The ownership of these sectors is dependent on the activity of the players on a worldwide scale. Whenever players complete a mission on a planet inside of a sector, they impact how liberated that sector is. If the sector becomes fully liberated, players can no longer play missions on that planet inside that sector. There's no need. The enemy has been kind of pushed back. This activity, driven by a series of objectives called major orders, gives the galaxy this feeling of being alive. In theory, on any given day, a sector could swap control and suddenly be under attack by an enemy faction. At that moment, all the planets inside that sector would now be available for players to play missions on. On the developer side, they do control the ownership of these sectors, oftentimes forcing one to become owned by an enemy faction. This is done in a narrative fashion, such as the bugs have made a massive assault on this area, such that it fits with the overall fantasy of the game. Planets are where things start getting really interesting. Planets are contained within sectors, and each planet has some defining properties which have a large impact on the missions players play. These properties come in the form of biomes. Biomes not only define a visual aesthetic for the mission, they also bring with them a variety of environmental hazards. These all bring a substantial amount of gameplay variety to the mission. Playing on a snow planet is very different to playing on a forest planet. These planets are also a part of the global narrative, as they are what players are actively fighting over. Each planet has a liberation value, which can be modified by players. This liberated status of a planet kind of bubbles up, and it impacts the liberated status of the sector as a whole. This is also where the recently added supply lines come in. Though these aren't terribly well surfaced in the game, supply lines and the way that players use them to their advantage can have a big impact on how quickly a planet can be liberated. Planets and biomes have also been used really effectively to add new content to the game in a way that feels cohesive, but we can get more to that when we talk about major orders. On each planet are a series of missions. Missions are where the rubber really starts to hit the road. This is where players can choose what kind of gameplay experience they want, whether it be destroying eggs or defending a base, what difficulty challenge they're prepared to take on, or even how long they want to play for. The faction is inferred by the sector, and the biome is inferred by the planet. This whole system of sector, planet, and mission allows players to kind of customize and build the play experience that they want, and it's all presented in a way that's easy to understand, with the appropriate information being presented at each choice point. For example, players might ask each other, do we want to fight bugs or bots? And then, well, what kind of planet, like snow or forest? And then for the mission, do we want to protect the base or destroy stuff? As they're making these choices, they are selecting the sector, the planet, and the mission. They're crafting their own play experience. The game can then use this information to generate the map for the player. It's like the players are able to input the settings that the procedural generation system will need in order to create a mission for them. It's pretty neat. The major and personal orders play a huge role in all of this as well. Personal orders are daily objectives, and they serve a few purposes. They give the player guidance around what they should be playing. It's possible with a system like this, where a player has a lot of agency around choosing the mission. Some players might be kind of spoiled for choice and unable to make a firm decision on what they want to do. Personal objectives kind of help here, because they can guide the player down a path to just kind of get them started. They also act as a nice way to grant a decent bonus amount of medals to players who are actively engaging on a regular basis, and to encourage them to return on a daily basis or potentially miss out on medals. Major orders are the big one. This is what really drives the live service narrative, which has brought Helldivers 2 to so much success. These are similar to personal orders, only everyone in the world who's playing the game contributes to their completion. Success or even failure of a major order has an impact on the sectors and planets that are available to players. The results of these major orders, when strung together, tell the story of a massive ongoing war between the humans of Super-Earth and the enemy forces assaulting them. Players can look back and remember critical moments in the war, or epic battles focused around the liberation of a single planet. If you're an active player of the game, you'll have these memories of these amazing moments, and what's really incredible about it is it's not scripted. It's not a foregone conclusion. There have been moments when players rallied together and liberated a planet way faster than expected. This results in this massive shift happening that was totally unplanned. The developers, they just have to kind of roll with it. This is similar to, say, a dungeon master in Dungeons & Dragons, when their players suddenly decide to do something unexpected. They just have to roll with it, and they should, because these moments create the best memories. That's what this system is doing, but for a massive audience. It's crafting incredible memories for all of these players. That's a true MMO. The results of the major orders have unlocked whole new planets, new weapons, mechs, new mission types. By attaching player action to the unlocking of new content for the player to engage in, this connects deeply with players, far more deeply than just a date on a calendar. It's a substantial difference to say with your friends, "Hey, we liberated the factories and got the mechs," instead of simply, "Did you see they added mechs to the battle pass?" This has brought players into the live service narrative of the game and made them engaged participants rather than just customers. Of course, all these new toys wouldn't do any good without something to kill, would they? That's where the enemy factions come into it. The two factions in the game today each present a unique playstyle. Again, this leans into the player's ability to craft their own experience. Automatons are far more resilient and strong at range combat, while the Terminids present somewhat of an easier challenge, especially at lower difficulties, and are much more focused around melee, swarming styles of play. These enemy factions are used by the game to create the necessary opposition for players in missions. Each faction has different tiers of units which appear based on difficulty, scaling the threat over time. They contribute to and create a lot of that chaotic fun that occurs inside of the mission itself. So just sort of stepping back a bit, we can sort of see how this simple core loop seems simple on the surface, but it has all these really intricate details about it and systems that work really closely together in order to define what this core loop is, what the real nuance of it all is. Put all of this together, from crafting your own style of mission, to selecting a loadout, to the chaotic hilarity of the in-game, and then the deep progression system and live service narrative, and you have the design of Helldivers 2. Phew! Did we do it? I think we did it. Okay, so I hope you came away with a really strong understanding of the design of Helldivers 2, how it all fits together, and a glint of what makes it special. If I missed something, go right ahead and let me know in the comments below. It's right below the like and subscribe buttons. And if you dug this video, I have another one on Helldivers right here. Just go ahead and click and enjoy. For now though, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.